Emmanuel even claimed to have been to that farm a million of times and that he had never seen anything, to which Sandra reproached him that he had never gone on Halloween night and had not even dared to go at night. Everyone began to laugh at Emmanuel, to which he is trying to regain his honor. He proposed that everyone go to the farm, since it was not very far from there. Everyone present agreed and showed genuine emotion, especially Jimmy. However, Oliver had sworn to himself that he wouldn't set foot on the Zav farm for all the gold in the world. But after everyone looked at him and noticed that he didn't feel so sure, he ended up giving into that social pressure. So without further delay, the young people headed to the farm. It seemed strange to Oliver that no one there really felt afraid or that they were afraid. They knew how to hide it very well. He felt as if his legs they did not want to obey him and wanted to go on their own in the opposite direction, but he forced them to continue with the group. When they arrived at the farm, Oliver found it extremely disappointing. He had never dared even approach or look from a safe distance, so he had always imagined a horrible construction full of pentagrams, inverted crosses, and for some reason I expected to see tombs. But it was nothing more than an old and very deteriorated farmhouse which was falling apart. It didn't look much different from any abandoned building. Everyone joked as they crossed the deteriorated wooden fence. This one was already a little more quiet. The first place they visited was the pig pen, which, although it no longer had pigs, emanated a nauseating smell, due to which none of the young people wanted to stay there for a long time. When they left, Oliver thought he saw someone at the back of the place, but when he lit up, he realized that there was nothing, so he continued with the rest. When they entered the barn inn, where the butcher is supposed to have taken the lives of his victims, they could see on the occasional wall circles with some strange symbols which seemed a bit demonic and managed to worry more than one. But Jimmy assured that probably kids like them had painted them to try to scare who they were going to go. That explanation was enough for Oliver, who at that moment felt almost as brave as any of them. That route was becoming more and more boring and disappointing. The meat hooks were nowhere to be found, where legend claimed that the butcher hung his victims still alive, and the old huge knives with which he was responsible for taking the lives of his pigs were not there either. One of the boys did not know his name. He lit an old metal sinister which contained a lot of papers and wood, which made it light very quickly, and for a few hours they simply stayed by the fire talking about trivial things and one that another horror story. For Oliver, that was the best night of his life. He was enjoying it more than the party itself, especially because Jimmy had stayed with him the entire time. He had even given him the home number so they could talk on the phone, totally immersed in the conversation with Jimmy. He did not even notice when almost everyone present had gone to explore on their own, thus leaving only the two of them, and Augustine got up to go pee. They both continued with their talk until after a good 30 minutes, where no one had returned yet. When Oliver questioned where everyone was, Jimmy hinted that it was most likely that they were somewhere corner kissing. This made Oliver get nervous, even more so when their eyes met. Jimmy was smiling at him. It was almost as if he could read his mind. It was as if he knew that secret that he had never told anyone. As he slowly approached him, he felt his heart going a mile an hour. He couldn't believe that this was happening. He closed his eyes and felt Jimmy's lips brushing against his. Oliver wanted that moment wouldn't end, but just when Jimmy's clock struck 3 a.m., a scream made them immediately alert. It was a heartbreaking scream from a girl. The two got up from the ground. The Oliver there was no doubt that they should run, but Jimmy had completely different plans. He began to walk towards where he thought the scream was coming from, claiming that they should help. Oliver didn't know what to do. If someone needed help, it would be best to go to the police and not go further into the farm. Even so, he knew that Jimmy would not understand those reasons and he did not want to walk all the way to the exit in complete darkness, so he decided to go after him. Both walking through one of the long dark hallways when a chill ran through them to the bones as they heard two more screams, which even for Jimmy were terrifying. Both boys backed away a little, trying to figure out exactly where the screams were coming from, trying to be the one who keep their nervous calm. Both of them, Jimmy decided to continue walking. He pushed one of the old wooden doors, and what he saw behind it was extremely shocking for both of them. Behind the door were all the knives and meat hooks that a few hours ago they were complaining about not seeing. In the same room were all their friends who were lifeless. Oliver looked at how Augustine had a butcher knife buried in his head, right as her headband simulated. One of the girls was hanging on an old meat hook. Her eyes were wild, and a grimace of deep terror was plastered on her face. They both ran straight to the exit. The atmosphere had become so heavy that it was even difficult for them to breathe. Jimmy was holding Oliver's hand, who could barely keep up with him. It didn't take them long to realize that they were running in circles. It was almost as if they were running in circles. They had entered a labyrinth from which there was no exit. When they were exhausted, the young people stopped. They knew that they had passed through that room at least 3 times, as the sound of something sharp carving against the walls through a small window which illuminated the place a little. Oliver could see a shadow of what seemed to be an adult man the closer he got. The laughter also increased. Both ran back to where they believed this time was the exit, returning to the same place, listening again and again to the incessant screams of their other friends, mixed with the infernal laughter. The two could see each time closer that horrible shadow. Jimmy took Oliver's hand again. He was desperately looking for a way out. And in all that time, that macabre laugh could not stop being heard. At one point, they both thought that if they couldn't escape, at least they could hide. They entered a small warehouse where the two of them could barely fit. Their breathing was labored, and Oliver was on the verge of crying. The laughter and the knife carving against the walls could still be heard. Oliver had no doubt what the butcher was about. They were both in that small warehouse for a long time until the laughter subsided, and as the minutes passed, they were both almost convinced that this one was no longer was looking for them. They even made a promise to completely burn that farm as soon as they managed to go out. That thought was wrong, since sooner than later the laughter was heard again, only this time too close, also feeling a fetid hot breath puffing into their heads. Jimmy turned around like Oliver, only to see in horror a man standing behind them who was smiling in a grotesque way, revealing his teeth rotten. His face was completely figurative and full of blood. He was wearing a butcher's apron, and in his right hand he had a huge knife which he held firmly, looking at them and laughing at the in the same grotesque way. The shock of seeing that horrible man made Oliver and Jimmy freeze. The next day, nobody knows what happened last night. The fear of the butcher spread everywhere.